Before the next business, I have a short statement to make. In media interviews last week, the Chancellor announced that she intended to introduce changes to the fiscal rules relating to the funding of day-to-day spending through tax receipts and to the measurement of the public debt. These are major new policy announcements with significant and wide-ranging implications for the government's fiscal policy and for the public finances. It is evident to me they should therefore have been made in the first instance in this House and not to the world's media. This principle is clearly, unambiguously set out in paragraph 9.1 of the Ministerial Code. While this can hardly be described as a leak, the Chancellor herself gave interviews on the record and on camera. The premature disclosure of the contents of the budget has always been regarded as supreme discourtesy to the House. Indeed, I still regard it as such. I am very, very disappointed that the Chancellor expects the House to wait nearly a full week to hear her repeat these announcements in the budget statement on Wednesday. I've always defended, undoubted, the right of this House, including the opposition parties, backbenchers in all parts of the House, to be the first to hear major government policy announcements. Ministers should expect to face proper, sustained scrutiny when these announcements are made for the elected members of this House and not for the American news channels. I can assure the government that it's still my firm view and that I will use the powers I have to make sure the House is able to hold ministers to account. I'm glad there is a statement later on fiscal rules. Perhaps no coincidence. Honourable members may be wondering how they will get a seat on Wednesday. Well, to be quite honest, the way it's going, you won't need to. We'll have all heard it first in here. It's not acceptable. I don't want it to continue, and I want to treat this House with the respect it deserves. I'm not whether this side or that side. It is totally unacceptable to go around the world telling everybody rather than these members. They were elected by the constituents of this country, and they deserve to be treated better, whatever. And isn't it funny? When it was the previous party, it was the opposite side that was complaining to me. Get your acts together, all sides. Treat members with respect. Right, let's come to the...
In this passionate address to the House of Commons, Speaker Lindsay Hoyle openly criticised the Chancellor Rachel Reeves over recent leaks to the press concerning her budget proposals, which included changes to the fiscal rules. Hoyle's frustration stems from Reeves discussing these significant policy plans with the media, rather than presenting them first in Parliament, a traditional protocol that ensures MPs can scrutinise government policy before it reaches the public domain. Hoyle's rebuke highlights a principle he's championed consistently, that MPs, as representatives of the people, should be the first to hear and debate such critical government announcements. Hoyle emphasised how this kind of premature disclosure to the press undermines Parliament's role, a sentiment that extends beyond mere procedure. He pointed out that members of Parliament have a duty to represent their constituents, and withholding information from them limits their ability to effectively challenge government actions. The Speaker stressed that this type of conduct also violates the Ministerial Code, which mandates that major policy announcements be made in Parliament first. In his view, sharing budget details with the media ahead of time is not just a misstep, but also a serious disregard for parliamentary sovereignty. These frustrations are rooted in Hoyle's long-standing concerns about the eroding respect for Parliament. As he noted, his role as Speaker is fundamentally about defending Parliament's rights and, by extension, the public's right to see government accountability in action. This isn't the first time Hoyle has had to make these kind of statements. It's a recurring issue across successive governments, which has fostered his deep-seated scepticism about whether his calls for reform will ever be heeded. Hoyle acknowledged that these kite-flying exercises, which we've discussed previously, where ministers gauge public reaction to prospective policies by leaking information to the press, are becoming a habitual practice. The problem, as he outlined, is that this behaviour bypasses Parliament and replaces genuine scrutiny with pre-packaged media narratives. In other words, if the government feels that a particular proposal might be unpopular, it can easily retract it as a mere trial balloon in the media, sparing itself from parliamentary interrogation and accountability. At its core, Hoyle's frustration highlights a disturbing trend. Parliament is gradually being sidelined by the government that prefers to test policies in the court of public opinion rather than the legislative chamber. Whilst Hoyle has continually spoken up for the rights of Parliament, his own power to enforce these norms is limited. The Speaker's powers are largely symbolic. He can chide ministers for their conduct, but enforcing real consequences remains elusive. Hoyle's criticism might be seen as theatre by some, a symbolic protest against an unstoppable trend, yet his words underline a fundamental issue facing British democracy: the government's shift towards media management over parliamentary debate. This erosion of parliamentary authority undermines not just the role of MPs, but the very foundation of democratic accountability. For Hoyle and for many parliamentarians, this isn't a mere procedural issue, it's a profound question of who holds power and who is accountable to the British people. But let me know what you think in the comments. I've been Jake from Just Jake as always. Subscribe to the channel and I'll see you next time. You actually made it to the end of the video. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, which, why haven't you already, is somewhere over there. And also, if you want to watch more videos, also check out over there. I've been Jake from Just Jake. See you later.